Hey guys, so today I want to talk to you about those times when your intuition is confusing. Because, of course, your intuition works in a different way to the way you were taught to think when you were at school. At school, you're taught to think in this very sort of linear, A, therefore B, therefore C, therefore D kind of way. Whereas your intuition works in a pattern-based system. So it's looking at the pattern of the situation or a person, and then it's actually assessing whether these things line up with that pattern, and so things are going to be, great, or at least things are going to follow where that situation seems to be leading, or the pattern seems to be broken, and therefore either some mess is going to happen or the situation is going to change. Right. So why does that make things confusing? Because that seems pretty clear. Your intuitive part of your mind picks up the pattern. It perceives whether things are aligned to that pattern or not. That seems pretty clear. And yes, it is. Except, unfortunately, when we're dealing either with ourselves and with other people, we're really dealing with two people. So sometimes I refer to this as spiritual double vision, because whenever we're dealing with a person, we're not just dealing with that person, we're dealing with who they really are, and that's where the clearest part of their pattern is, and that's the fractal pattern that we use in fractology. That my book, The Soul's Brain, talks about the principles of that. But so who the person really is, and then all their stuff. So, their issues, their conditioning, all the negative stuff that maybe they carry around with them, and that tends to then make them choose to be someone or something else other than who they really are. And so that's a different pattern. So, a very easy example of this is when you're talking to somebody and their words seem to be saying one thing, but the emotional cues that they're giving off are saying something very different. And we call that being incongruent. So really what it means is that one part of them, maybe the part of who they really are, is actually lined up one way, is working off one pattern, but then this other part of them is working off a different pattern. And that's when it becomes confusing, because now we've got two patterns. We have two patterns in that, dealing with that one person, whether it's ourselves or someone else. So you could say, that it's the two patterns of the spirit and the ego. So, in my work, we learn to sort of bring these two together so that you can get all the strength from the ego, but you want your spirit to actually be directing things, because that's the pattern that you want to work with. But a lot of people aren't there yet. So they're working with these two patterns. It's almost like sometimes you look at a tree and it's got this whole creeper vine thing all over it. And it's like, well, what pattern should I be focused on? Should I be focused on the creeper because it has such pretty flowers, or should I be focused on the tree because, trees are fabulous? So, well, that's what you need to do. And the problem is that when we're working intuitively, because your intuition is about helping you become who you really are, it's really wanting to push the pattern of who the person really is. However, that person may be making choices from their ego, at least in that moment. And so their intention might be about their ego, and yet your intuition's wanting to take you in this other direction. So if you actually stop and ask yourself, well, which part of this person is my intuition tuning into right now? Well, and then see if you can sync up that the part that you're tuning into and the part that the person is coming from, whether it's yourself or the other person, doesn't matter. It's because you want to focus on the pattern or the part of the person that is actually in control of making the choices right now. And when you do that, a lot of the confusion will sort itself out. So But just start watching that. Start watching for when you're getting confused or your intuition seems to be giving you two different answers. Just stop and ask, well, how many patterns are at play here? Like, you know, is it the ego as well as the spirit? Or are there actually conflicting patterns? And when you actually start to realize how many patterns are involved in the situation, things will start to get clearer. So do that. Hopefully that helps. Any questions, put them in the comments below, and hopefully that will help you tap into your brilliance, because until next time, remember that you're brilliant.